Grow your practice, grow your wealth, grow your impact. Find out how to spend less time in the dental chair and more time on the things you love.
Welcome back to the Dental Wealth Podcast. Glad to have you back for another episode. Today what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you with an example and of a concept we've talked about before in the show. I'm going to keep it upbeat and try to keep positive, but I want to share an experience with you and see how it relates to dental. I want you to write some things down real quick. Do me a favor, write these down really quick. If you want to get people keep coming back to your business, if you want them to keep coming back and back and back and back, one of the things you do first is you focus on them. So you focus on them, you create a unique experience, and then literally it's kind of corny as it sounds, you want to transform people's lives. Like you want to transform their experience, what's happened. You want to focus on people. You want to create this like unique experience that actually transforms people. And by the way, transformation is whatever you want it to call it. Transformation might be just transforming my day. It might be transforming the way I go out into the world, whatever it is. But I'm saying like we've got to really tune into the fact of like what makes people come back to our business and what makes people excited and what makes people, if we're going to grow a business, we've got to focus on some key areas. So when I bring that up, I bring it up for a reason. So I talk about scarcity versus abundance, to clients and on the show. And so I think some people aren't really sure what that means. And I think this example I'm going to give you is a really good example and how it relates to your dental office and how you can apply it. And so I want to share this with you. So what happens is oftentimes with COVID happening right now, a lot of industries are really, really hurting. They just really are. And I want to be sensitive to that. And so what happens is when businesses are hurting, and your business, by the way, your dental office, depending on who you are listening to this, you guys might be hurting, or you might be looking at the calendar and saying, hey, look, we're not where we want to be right now. And the schedule isn't as full as it should be. And I'm really starting to worry about the future. I mean, that's really where the problem comes in, is we start to worry about the future and worry about cash flows and worry about, hey, what's it going to be like if and by the way, I saw this dentist the other day online. It wrote this big thing about, this guy's really down in the dumps. He wrote this big thing about how dentists are never going to work again. And it was really, really, some people allow that stuff to get in their head, which by the way is not true. But, it's like we allow this stuff to happen to us. And so when we get scared, by the way, fear is what creeps in. And so one of the reasons I tell people, don't let fear control you is because from a place of it said before, if you make business decisions from an emotional place, you're usually going to make a bad decision. So fear is an emotion. I understand that. Fear is an emotion. And oftentimes people make business decisions out of fear. And look, sometimes fear is justified. But fear might be justified, but letting it control you is different. And we saw this in April and May and June. There's a lot of people who allowed fear to control them, and it controlled their mindset, and they couldn't literally get off the couch because they were so paralyzed in fear. And so fear can be overwhelming. And so I want you to hear me on when we talk about scarcity and abundance and say, look, fear, by the way, it's normal to feel fear. I'm going to say that again. It is normal to feel fear. And in fact, one of the things about entrepreneurs we talk about is that entrepreneurs are willing to take risk in spite of fear. That's why entrepreneurs should get rewarded by the economy, and they should be rewarded. And that's why politicians need to not beat up on entrepreneurs, because they're the ones courageous enough to take chances in the face of fear and risk everything, literally. So, all you dental entrepreneurs, and maybe if you're not even a dentist, listen to this and you're an entrepreneur, hey, give yourself a pat on the back. It's scary as heck what you guys do. So I want to put something around, a framework around that to say, look, it's okay to be afraid. It's not okay to allow it to paralyze you, and it's what you do with that fear. So when we start thinking about this, I was sharing this morning recently, I had this experience where I went to a hotel, really, really high-end hotel. And I've got, guys, I've spent six figures doing events at this hotel. And, it's always been a great experience. Love being there. Love the valet people to the bellhops to the restaurants. Like everything's been amazing there. And then COVID happens, and obviously their numbers went down to like nothing. And so when that happens, what is the first emotion that kicks in? Fear, right? And by the way, when revenues go down significantly, is fear justified? Well, of course it is. Of course it is. Of course it's justified. But the question is, what do you do about the fear? It's what do you do with that fear? So I was explaining to somebody, I said, look, I stay at this hotel and in, you go to the room, they've taken the coffee machines out and they don't even give you conditioner. And ladies, that's not a good thing, right? So they give you shampoo, but not conditioner. There's no moisturizing. There's nothing in there that's frills. And by the way, some of that you might be like, okay, that's okay. I mean, housekeeping is not coming around these days. But hey, look, we have limited team. Like I even get that stuff. But I was talking about like the experience that got me was actually a breakfast experience. When I went downstairs and I had to wait in line for like an hour to get a cup of coffee. By the way, there's no coffee in the rooms. And then, so you had to wait like an hour to get a cup of coffee. You get this cheap little cup and then they put your cold breakfast potatoes in like a little box. And it's just this, and then by the way, your coffee, because they only give you a small coffee because they won't give you a large. And then, then this experience becomes so bad where you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't want a cup of coffee. I can't get a refill. I'm gonna have to wait in line for an hour. And so what ends up happening is when we started to have so this hotel, I want to explain what's happening. They've allowed the CFO of the company and they have allowed the accountants to tell them that they can't afford things and they can't afford it. They can't afford it. They can't afford it. They can't afford it. So they go, okay, well, I can't afford this. And by the way, I get my car, by the way, it took me 45 minutes to get my car back. And then the sunroof's open. So I'm like, if it rained, it would have ruined my car. And they told me they were just too busy to close it. And it's just on and on and on. And this isn't a Google review. I don't want to sit here and spend 40 minutes talking about how bad this experience was. Because it was bad. And I'm not giving you all the details because I'm not going to bore you with every detail of what happened. But it was just a bad experience, like really bad. And some of the things I can understand the housekeeping thing, but I literally was thinking to myself as I'm waiting for an hour, I would be better off getting my car or even walking to a breakfast place, getting a full cup of coffee, and then be able to have breakfast there and come back. It was such a bad experience because I don't know about you guys. I'm a coffee drinker. I've got coffee drink right now as we're filming. I'm a prior Navy guy. I love my coffee. So being able to wake up and not have a cup of coffee in my room and not have a cup of coffee downstairs. So you coffee drinkers know what I'm talking about. And that can ruin your whole trip. It can ruin your day for sure. And then it's like the cold potatoes and I thought to myself, what a great example of scarcity versus abundance. What a great example of scarcity versus abundance. Because what's happening is, they've allowed the CFOs and accountants to make all the financial decisions. And that's scarcity mindset, which is this idea of and just so those of you maybe are new to the podcast don't understand what that means. It means what happens is if you spend an hour on fear versus an hour on growth, okay? So it's about time and energy. What would happen if I spent an hour by the way, you get what you measure. So if I spent an hour of time focused on how to cut cost, what I would do is I would cut cost. But I'm giving up an opportunity cost. The opportunity cost is what would happen if I spent an hour figuring out how I could grow. And there are two different wavelengths. And one is one of prosperity and growth and building. And the other one is conserving so much. Then, by the way, there's a saying, it might not be the first time you've heard it, but you can't cut your way to profitability. You can't, and if you've never heard that, I want you to write that down. You can't cut your way to profitability. So what happened is this experience was so bad. And by the way, it would have been easy to fix, by the way, just so you guys understand. All it would have taken is, by the way, they've got those big vats, they do events. They could have put big vats there, and then, they could have even had somebody like just, getting each person a cup of coffee or whatever. I mean, they could have done something about it. Right now, there's so many people out of work in the Atlanta area. I mean, they could have paid somebody $10 an hour just to push down the little button, and that person probably would have been happy to get $10 an hour. And so they could have, there's a lot of simple ways. And I was thinking to myself, because by the way, I think in business terms all the time. I was sitting there thinking like, if I was the manager of this hotel, I would be looking and saying, look, we've got to cut costs. I mean, that makes sense, but we've got to, how do I give someone the best experience possible despite these cutbacks? Like, I get that we've got to cut back, but when someone waits 45 minutes for a valet, they're not coming back. When their sunroof's open, they're not coming back. When they can't get a cup of coffee, they're not coming back, not for a long time. And so when that happens, like, we have to look at that and go, my gosh, if that's the case, then the people that did give us a shot aren't going to come back. And by the way, bad experiences like translate. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to tell everyone they know what a bad experience they had. And then no one's going to come. And then what happens is then the revenues are going to go lower, and then they're going to have to cut costs more. And then the revenues are going to go lower. Then they're going to cut, and then they go out of business. I hope they don't, but they go out of business and they're like, what happened? What happened was you stayed in scarcity mindset. You spent all your time figuring out how to cut costs. And as revenues went down, you cut. And if you had spent that same energy focused on how do I give someone an amazing experience during this time? And it's interesting, as I was talking about this podcast, I had multiple examples from people on the team telling me about their experiences that have happened lately. And by the way, I'm about to go all dental with this right now. But I want you to think about that because even if you're going to have to cut costs, you've got to figure out a way to still give somebody a wow experience. How do you blow? By the way, it doesn't take much to blow someone away. It doesn't take much to blow someone away. And all I would have needed was a cup of coffee. Maybe for a patient, it's someone to treat them a certain way or to be given something, or, I can get into the complexities of that. But my point is this, is like, if we spend that energy during this time, I just had a doctor come back to me. I had a marketing firm tell me, Eric, you're the only one in the face of COVID who's telling doctors to market. Like, and literally they said, like, you're it. Like, every other consultant is either like disappeared off the face of the earth and scarcity mindset, they disappeared. And then, or they're telling everyone to cut back on marketing. And so what I did was I told everyone to grow marketing, that everybody was quiet, that when everybody pulls back, you expand. Abundance. And I'm like, look, there's opportunity here. There's things we could be doing in this market. I had a doctor tell me recently that in June that they were moving up towards 100 new patients in June, and none of those patients, by the way, none of their traditional means of getting new patients worked. They had no new patients from their traditional means. Everything was from the advice that I had given them in March. I guess it was April 1st or April 2nd. I think I had the conversation with them. So literally, they were like, June was through the roof because we took your advice. Now, what was the advice? The advice was to expand when everyone else contracts. That right now, the marketing dollars are going to travel really, really far because people are being quiet. Abundance. Let's not focus on being scared. Let's not let fear take over. Let's focus on right now, what are our opportunities in the marketplace? And this doctor was like, thank gosh I listened to your advice because of you, everyone around me struggling and I'm booming. There's always opportunity, but it's what you get. It's like you get what you measure. What are you focusing on? Because where you focus, right, your focus goes, your energy flows. You guys have heard that before. So it's like this thing is when we start thinking about our dental office right now, I'm going to relate this to dental office and go, I've got to be able to give people this wow experience. I've got to even if I've got to cut back and look, I've been told that there's a national shortage of hygienists, and I've been told that, I get it all. Like, I've heard everything. I hear them all, but you have to say, like, how can I look at the opportunities in the marketplace? Abundance mindset. What are the opportunities for me to market and grow my firm more than ever? What are the things I can do even with the current experience, to wow and blow away patients. What could I be doing that doesn't even cost me money? By the way, I would have literally, if somebody had just walked up to me and just said, "Sir, it seems like it's taking a long time, in line. Is there anything I could do for you while you wait?" Or, "Hey, I know you're in line. Can I go get you a cup of coffee while you're waiting to order breakfast?" Or it's so simple. It's so simple. By the way, if you looked at the front desk, there was like 4 people that were joking and laughing. But yet, if you call down, nobody picks up the phone because they don't feel like they have to anymore. These are what I'm trying to get at. They've been able to justify the scarcity mindset versus it only takes one person up front. 3 people need to go get people coffee. They actually had the team already. They just weren't allocating them properly because they weren't measuring experience. And in fact, what they told themselves was, during this time, we don't need to worry about experience anymore. And I guarantee you, if I was in the boardroom of the hotel, I'll guarantee you every conversation's about how do we cut, how do we save, and none of them were about experience. None of them are about abundance. Those conversations, or if there are, it's 10% versus 90%. What's happening in your dental practice? Where are your conversations going? Look, you guys have the PPP thing down, like the PPE thing's down. Okay, where are your conversations going? How much time are you spending around right now in this time going, look, people are going to hotels and having crappy experiences. They're going to restaurants and having crappy experiences. Everywhere they're going, no one's treating them like a human being anymore. How do we change that paradigm? How do we make the dental office the absolute best place to go right now? That people walk out and they go, man, because by the way, it's not only that they're having bad experiences everywhere. You guys know what I'm talking about. Like right now, it's anywhere you go, you seem like you have a bad experience these days. Wow. What an opportunity. What an opportunity. See, if you get into abundance mindset, you actually start seeing things you didn't see before and go, my gosh, no one else, every other dental office is treating people, a certain way. We can, and it's not even dental anymore. Before you were competing with dental, but now you're competing with their experiences in life. At the grocery store, at a restaurant, when they go out of their house, when they go to a hotel, like literally they're having all these horrible experiences. So now that experience, that moment, that just extra second, had like a 10 times approach that it used to have. It has 10 times the effect. It has 10 times the referability. It has 10 times the volume of what you could have done before. And so I'm telling you right now, if you focus on the opportunity, on the abundance, quit trying to be so scarcity mindset and start focusing just on, well, we got to cut. Look, it's okay to be fearful. It's not okay to sit back and do nothing about it. That's why you're an entrepreneur. It's why you got into being an entrepreneur, is so that you could grow, so you could build, so you could create, so you could blow people away. Right now, marketing. You should be marketing your company right now, and you should be doing it in an amazing way and talking about your community efforts and you should be touching people. People at this point want to be contacted with. They want to be, like, I still think the greatest time to do this was literally probably April, May. The second best time to do it is now, today. Make it happen. Like, get your team around and talk about this. Remember, I said 3 business principles to keep them coming back. Focus on them, not you. Focus on them. Now, did that hotel focus on me? Or did they focus on them? They focused on them. They focused only on them and what was good for them. Okay, so I'm not coming back. Okay, did they create a unique experience? Did they create a unique experience that I was like, man, I went to this hotel and they blew me away in the face of COVID. I had the best experience. I will tell everyone about it because, by the way, I would have. And so, no. Did they transform my life or even my day or do anything to make my life better? No. So I'm not going back. I'm not. And it will cost them so much more in the future. They lost revenues today. They lost revenues tomorrow. They lost revenues 5 years from now. Promise you. It wasn't just today. It wasn't just tomorrow. And it's not even 5 years from now. I will probably never hold an event there ever again. See, when we start cutting back, it actually has an effect that's everlasting. And it doesn't ever go away. And we have a connotation about that business and that experience. When I talk to doctors and I say, tell me about your experience. Oh, it's amazing. Our experience is amazing. We treat patients the best. Are you a commodity or is it unique? You might treat them well, and it might be like most other dental offices treat them, by the way. Walk into another dental office, they probably get treated the same way. What is unique about your experience? I would encourage you even more than ever right now to make your experience so damn unique. And look at this time and say, when they walk in the dental office, they are going to tell 10 of their friends how freaking amazing it is. And then I want you to market the world out of it. Let everybody know, because I'm going to tell you, or push for referrals during this time, because your competitors aren't doing it. They're not going to do it. They're in fear mindset. They're in scarcity mindset. They're holding back. They're in conservation mode. They're not going to market. They're not going to expand. They're not going to create. They're not going to create a unique experience. They're going to do what this hotel did. They're going to get by and hope to get by and just pray and hope that people come back. And that's not how you become an amazing business. You might stay in business, but I don't think any of you started a business to stay in business. How about being the best of the best? I hope you're listening to this podcast because you want to be the best of the best, that you want to be the most amazing business. And I'm not saying that it's not okay. Like, people get fearful, but we don't manage a business from the place of fear. We manage it from opportunity. I want to say that again. You don't manage a business from a place of fear. You manage it from a place of opportunity. You grow your business. You create. You invest. You employ. You market. You do these things. And you, by saying like transform people's lives, yes, I'm saying transform people's lives. I'm saying if you walked in your practice every day and said, we are going to create one hell of an experience, we're going to transform people's lives every single day. When somebody walks through that door, we're going to transform their life. And you might think, well, Eric, that's a little bit, that seems a little bit much. But if you focused on them and not you, and you said, look, I'm really going to focus on them. Forget us for right now. Let's focus on them. Let's make sure that person walks through this door, has the absolute best experience. We're going to create a unique experience that nobody else is doing right now. What is it that nobody else? See, this is abundance mindset. You focus on what no one else is doing. So abundance, instead of focusing on fear, we all sit in a circle. We go, hey, let's all go out after work or whatever. Let's sit in a room, whatever shut down for half a day. Get some 3M white charts and write down, hey, how do we create an experience that nobody else has in the whole marketplace? Like, what can we do that's unique? How can we focus on them? How we transform lives? Like, what is it that we can do as a business to transform everyone's life that walks through that door? See, that's where the power comes from. The great businesses get this. The ones that stay in fear mindset are like, I don't even know what he's talking about. I'm telling you that this is the stuff. This is the stuff you've got to like own and you got to use, and you got to go, man, I've got to get out of my way and do not let accountants and CFOs tell me how I should manage my business. No great CEO lets the CFO make the decisions on spending money. They take recommendations from the CFO. They ultimately make the decision because they know the best thing for the business is to grow and expand and to change people's lives. And I said it before here, and it's an example I did not make up, but I use it over and over because I think it's such a great example. The CFO says, what if we spend all this money on people and they leave? Scarcity mindset. What if we spend money and they leave? That's a fear-based place. What if we spend money and they leave? Now, is that justified? Like, let's just unwind that. Is that justified? Yeah, it's justified. I mean, if I spend a bunch of money on people and they leave, I'm not too happy, am I? Right? And so that's scarcity mindset, though, because the other side is abundance mindset, which is the CEO saying, what if we don't train them and they stay? Boom. See, the CFO, the accountant, was just worrying about expenses. They were only worried about the cost. By the way, that's what their job is. But the CEO said, I need to grow, expand. I want an amazing team. I want turnover to be low. I want to transform people's lives. I want to create a unique experience. And I can't do that with people that are undertrained. I can't do that. And along the way, we're going to have people that leave, even though I spent a bunch of money on them. They're going to leave, but I'm not willing to keep the rest of them that are untrained. We're going to make an investment in our team. We're going to make an investment in our company. And I understand that people might leave, but that's coming from a place of scarcity. And I'm not going to come from that place. I'm going to come from a place of abundance, which says that I'm willing to invest and grow and create. And I call on you CEOs to say, that is my job. I will not let my accountant tell me what's best for my business. I will let them do their job, but I'm ultimately going to push back because I am going to, at this point, in this moment, right now, if you're listening to this, I think it's August 11th, and when I'm recording this. And I tell you that date because I want to be very specific about this, depending on when you're listening to this, because you can go back in context. And I want you to hear me. There is a time right now. That's why I told you this is the summer of abundance. There is a time and an energy and a focus right now, which if used correctly can transform your business for the rest of the time that you own it. That's a fact. What will you focus on this week? What will you focus on today? We have to train our minds, just like we have to train our bodies. By the way, this is not overnight. Like you don't just go from being 40 pounds overweight to, I know there's a lot of programs that try to sell you that, but it's just not true. If you want to lose 40 pounds, you've got to do it a different way. And guess what ends up happening? It takes you a period of time. You got to let this stuff, you got to start working this plan. You got to train your mind so that your mind looks at the world different. And so that you see things that nobody else sees. And see, that's where the magic happens. When you start learning how to focus on different things and at a different time and a different way, that's where the magic happens. That's where great CEOs come from. That's where CEOs are born. But it's a training. You gotta create a new muscle in your brain. You gotta create a new muscle in your mind. Someone told me recently, they said, I went back and listened to every single one of your podcasts. And by the way, I know he's a student. He, read multiple of my books before ever even talking to Tower Leadership. I know, by the way, he knows who I'm talking about right now too. And he came back to me and he said, look, I've read, I'm a serious student. What other books can you send me? What other recommendations do you have? And he said, I said, look, I'll send you some books for free because I appreciated his effort to want to learn and grow and create. This is a muscle you have to build. I thought he took his own time and said, I'm going to listen to every single podcast you've ever put out. That's commitment to building that muscle. That's a commitment to building that CEO mind. Just like the gym, you got to focus on this. And so we naturally, remember, physiologically, our brain is designed for scarcity. It was designed to protect resources. So that's normal. We have to retrain our CEO mind to say, I have to look at abundance. I have to look at where my opportunities are. I have to look at how I can exponentially grow during this time. I've got to retrain my brain to focus on the things that nobody else sees. I want you to write that down. I have to retrain my brain to focus on the things that nobody else sees. All the great CEOs of the world did. They saw opportunity when everybody else saw scarcity and fear. And they were able to build a business during times when things were difficult. Now our economy is turning around and, there's a lot of uncertainty around COVID. But nobody controls your mind but you. One of the things I said, and I think someone put it in a quote, when it came out recently, I just said, look, your brain is your last piece of human sovereignty. Your mind is the last piece. When you let your mind go, when you allow your mind to be taken by somebody else, whether it's the news media, whether it's your spouse, whether it's friends, if you allow people to drag your mind into the mud, well, hell, you've given up everything. Your brain's the last piece of human sovereignty. Protect it. Guard your cup. Don't let somebody poison you with their mediocrity, with their negativity, with their scarcity. Go back and fight and say, look, I'm going to build something. I'm going to create something. I am not going to do this. And by the way, it won't happen overnight. You can't listen to this podcast and transform. I mean, look, you take this podcast, you put things in place. You take last week's podcast and the last week and the last week and the last week and the last week and the last week. Maybe you get involved with Tower Leadership. Look, you've got to get this stuff so that you're building this muscle, because I'm going to tell you what happens is you get transformed. You'll wake up a year from now. You won't even think close the way you used to think. You won't even remember that guy or gal. You won't even remember that person. You'll look at problems differently. You'll see things different. You'll see opportunity when everyone else sees catastrophe. And that's where the magic comes in. But you have to be a serious student and you got to push it. I want to hear me again. You have to become a serious student. How bad do you want it? It can't just be one podcast. You got to study. You got to take things from like this podcast and you got to go put them in place. And one of the things I've been telling you lately, I said, go get a friend and like study together. I'm telling you, you do that, you will take whatever time it would take you to build this. It's the same thing as going to the gym, guys. It's like if you go to the gym by yourself, it's a lot more difficult getting up and being there at 5:30 in the morning than if you show up with a trainer or a friend. If you get there at 5:30 with a friend, like when that alarm clock goes off and you don't want to deal with it, what you'll find is you still have to get there because your buddy's there or your trainer's there. So like we know team works, accountability works. So that's why I was saying, like, if you're really a serious student about training this brain, go find a dental friend. Tell him or her, hey, I want you to listen to this. And I want us to spend an hour a week focused on whatever concept was in dental wealth. And I want to talk through it together. Maybe you go get the Dental Wealth book or Financial Evolution. Become serious students. And it'll tell you how serious you are. Now, you might, well, your other friends aren't trying to be the 1% of dentists. Don't do what they do. Do what the 1% do. And I'm going to tell you now, I spend a lot of time with the 1% of dentists, and I'm going to tell you, they're serious students. Become a serious student. You're going to train your brain to look for opportunity. You have to train that muscle. It takes time. And you'll find it, by the way, I still do it sometimes. I'll notice my brain going somewhere. I'll go, oh, that was just scarcity mindset kicking in. How do I focus on opportunity? And so it's a natural thing. I told you, physiologically, we're wired that way. So don't let that, like it's natural. But great CEOs know and they recognize when that's happening and they know how to turn the knob on it. So make sure you're happening. So set yourself a game plan. Like, don't just listen to this. Set yourself a game plan. Set an hour a week aside. Look, Friday for a lot of you is dead time. Set it on a Friday, that's fine. Put it somewhere where you're going to go back and you're going to focus on these things and you're going to make them happen. And you say, look, well, how can I focus on this week? And if you get really stuck, hey, reach out to Tower Leadership. We'll give you some things to do. I mean, here's the thing. Like, you've got to become a serious student so that you can grow. And I'm telling you, the difference between scarcity and abundance is the difference between practices that get stuck at 5, 6, 7, even 1 million and never move, and practices that go on as big as they want to. And it's truth, because once you learn it in your business, you'll learn it with your marriage, you'll learn it with your health, and you'll learn it with your life. Hey guys, thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.